Week 17, Seahawks, 49ers. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. So, we got the picks real quick. Seahawks favored by 7 in Arizona, actually. A game being played in whatever the fuck the stadium called, the Cardinal Stadium. And over-under set at 46. So, 100% very strong. Seahawks going to win the game for sure. I also think the under is a strong bet. Absolutely, I'll get into why. And Seahawks -7. That is bettable for sure, given the circumstances of this game. But I will say, always be careful with the Seahawks and like a spread that's any more than like 3, basically, because they're just too stupid. They do too many dumb things. Now here, I don't think that's going to show up, kind of like what happened versus the Jets. But that's what I said versus the versus Giants, and when they played the football team, they just do too much dumb shit to cover large spreads consistently. But stick around, I'll tell you that's how and why. That's how it go down. So first, we got the Seahawks offense versus 49ers defense. Injury wise, Carlos Hyde out. I believe, yeah, Carlos Hyde declared out for the Seahawks. Mike Iupati, starting guard questionable. Greg Olsen questionable. Don't really care about any of them. On the 49ers defense, tons of stuff. You got Javon Kinlaw, Richard Sherman, K'Wan Williams, Dre Greenlaw, all starters, all out. And Kevin Givens, backup defensive tackle, out as well. And then you also got Emmanuel Mosley, Tavarius Moore, and Mark in the Ocho. I don't know how the fuck you say his name. All questionable. But in this game, you're actually going to be the Seahawks. See the Seahawks be able to run the ball consistently, which don't happen very often because the interior of the 49ers defensive line at this point without Javon Kinlaw is really, it's tissue paper. DJ Jones is really bad. They're starting 3 tech. He consistently gets blown off the ball. He's not good at all. And without depth, now you're talking about Contavious Street, Darian Daniels, or maybe Deion Jordan, Eric Armstead moving inside. They're just going to get blown off the ball consistently because while the Seahawks offensive line has a lot of problems, including when they run the ball against a lot of teams, this isn't one of them. When you give Damian Lewis, Mike Iupati, Justin Simmons, whoever actually plays at the other guard spot, the ability to just line up and move straight forward, they're going to be able to do it. And on the edges too, 49ers definitely a lot better spot there between Armstead and Kerry Hyder, but neither of them are elite run defenders, right? Armstead's actually he's pretty good, but they're not enough by themselves to really limit. Because especially like I said, with the Seahawks run scheme is a lot more dependent on pushing up the middle as opposed to other teams who need edge control, like the 49ers on the other side of the ball. And when you give them that, it's just a real issue. And on the second level, without Dre Greenlaw, who I think is fantastic, really good, you just have Fred Warner. Now, Fred Warner is probably, like Aaron Rodgers said, the best middle linebacker in the game at this point. If it's not still Bobby Wagner on the other side of the ball, but the problem here is he is still undersized, and his great use is as a sideline to sideline guy as a pass defender. Here, when he's just going to have big offensive linemen just bearing down on him a lot of the game, he's not going to be nearly as effective as he is in other situations. And their other linebackers are not limiting to offensive success at all. Aziz Al-Shir, Shair, Demetrius Flankenfowles, whoever ends up playing there, not good enough. So their overall run game, the Seahawks actually going to be able to run the ball. Crazy, fucking crazy. So then you get to the pass game, and pass rush wise, there is some for the 49ers in the edges. I mean, Eric Armstead, Kerry Hyder, yeah, both decent edge rushers. And the Seahawks tackles, I didn't mention Brandon Shell got put on the COVID list, starting right tackle, so they're going to be, I'm assuming, going with Cedric Ogbuehi. That is a little bit of an issue. He is not very good. Well, but he's not actually quite the disaster that I think, his bust label as a high draft pick makes people think he is. He's not good, but he's not so bad. He kills everything. Dwayne Brown, though, is going to be fine. And so while I think there's a little bit, it's not much, and on the interior, it's nothing, literally nothing. Seahawks interior offensive line not very good in pass protection, but you're requiring terrible players to beat them. So actually, I'll tell you what, there is a chance of like a little bit here and there, but with any level consistently, absolutely not. So basically, you're giving Russell Wilson, borderline infinite time against a secondary that's down their best players as a huge issue. Because while I've talked about with the Seahawks before that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf have issues separating an initial route tree, over time, they are destructive forces. And that's the case here, especially given the 49ers kind of lack a real good safety play. Jimmy Ward is decent for sure, but he's back there by himself really at this point. And while I like Jason Verrett, over 4 or 5 seconds, is he covering either the Seahawks receivers? No, just because no one is. And on the other side, you're talking about if Emmanuel Mosley doesn't play a Kilo Weatherspoon, Jesus, that's a disaster. So yeah, the overall pass game for the Seahawks really really good. Now, is it consistently good? No, just as a rule, they're too stupid. Their play calling is too bad for them to go crazy crazy. Outside of the one example being the Jets game, but I mean I don't know that the Jets get a first down in the first half of that game. Like when you give them a billion chances, that's what's going to happen. Now that could happen here, I suppose, but don't don't count on it. Seahawks just like I said, just not good enough as a baseline with consistency. They are good enough to put up points though. So I have them overall 23-30, which might sound a little low. Like I said, that's just more of how the Seahawks play, and with their being able to run the ball, Pete Carroll, is going to go crazy in doing that ball control shit. Especially week 17, they probably don't want to throw out a bunch of crazy stuff, and they don't need to win a game like this. So then you get to the 49ers offense. Injury wise, tons of stuff for the 49ers. They're now on CJ Beathard at quarterback. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel both out, and Trent Williams got put on IR. So 3 backup offensive linemen at this point, or two or three depending on you look at the Daniel Brunskill center. But yeah, running the ball. This is again a rare case. The Seahawks are actually going to be okay up front. Poona Ford and Jaron Reed have both kind of regressed this year, not been super good, but in circumstances like this, yeah, where they're facing Colt McKivitz, Daniel Brunskill, and Lincoln Tomlinson, who I still like, but they're going to be able to stand up okay. And 49ers run scheme is more about edge control anyway, way more about it. And when you get Justin School out there at left tackle, it's not ideal. Now, it worked last year because they had a lot of advantages surrounding that scenario. And frankly, he was just playing better too. And while they get one of those back with George Kittle, who's incredible. I mean, I don't know, how much is he really going to play in Week 17? We'll see. So, not a lot of advantages to the line of scrimmage. And at the second level, Bobby Wagner built to play against this run scheme. KJ Wright's still really good, still really smart. And Jordan Brooks, frankly, well, if there's an attackable spot, it's him because he can get out of position still. His speed, his athleticism does help in this scenario. A little worried about him, but it's helpful. And I should mention here, Jamal Adams also made to play against this type of stuff. So running the ball, I don't think it's going to be all that. Now I'll give Kyle Shanahan credit, and I'll give their run scheme credit. They're going to be able to flash a little bit, but it's nothing impressive, right? And then you get to the pass game, and it's CJ Beathard. Like pass rush wise, not a lot from the Seahawks. They just suck at pass rushing the passer. But I will say, with Justin School left tackle, now you open up a chance for Carlos Dunlap to actually be useful because while he's not all bad at this point in his career anymore, he's not like garbage. And when you have a weak spot like that, it's attackable. Plus, yeah, like I said, Colt McKivitz, Daniel Brunskill, backup offensive lineman on the interior. Jaron Reed might actually be able to do something in this game too. So, not nothing as a pass rush. And as far as receivers go, right, you're talking about now Kendrick Bourne, Richie James, George Kittle, Jordan Reed. Those are the important ones. We'll see how much, what I think they called him Jordan Matthews for this game. But when you talk about those receivers versus Seahawks, they don't match. None of them match up well. Seahawks secondary normally absolutely garbage in pass coverage. Here, though, right, their problem comes against any level of NFL caliber receiver as far as down the field goes. And while I think Kendrick Bourne is actually a pretty useful player as like a third or fourth receiver, when you're talking about him as your number one, he actually, like Shaquille Griffin, can actually cover that type. Normally he can't cover nobody, but he can actually cover. That's a little harsh, but he can actually cover that type of player. And while Richie James I actually think is okay, and you've seen him go off before a little bit against bad secondaries, here they're just not quite bad enough to do that. And while Kittle is too good to be shut down, if I was going to pick a pair to try it, it would be Wagner and Adams. So same with Jordan Reed, but just obviously on a lesser scale. So there's just not consistent passing options for C.J. Beathard, who, again, just a real limiter to his own offense, which is absolutely the case here. And while normally the Seahawks secondary is terrible, the 49ers they're just not built to attack that in any meaningful way. And if you don't attack that with the Seahawks defense, all of a sudden they're not that bad. Given Jets game, football team, and even the Giants game, it's not like the Giants offense was good when they won. So yeah, I have them at 7 to 14 points, and frankly, that's just giving credit to Kyle Shanahan and George Kittle because they are good enough to make at least one thing happen over the course of a full game. But anything past that, I mean, you just ask yourself, how is that even possible, right? And I guess it's theoretically the Seahawks defense is so bad, but I not in the ways that matter in this game. So yeah, Seahawks 23-30, 49ers 7 to 14, and Seahawks are going to win the game. And I think the under is really strong. The only worry about that is if the Seahawks do it themselves, if they really go crazy this game. I doubt it. Like I said, week 17, I bet by the second half they're resting starters, and with the spread, it's just a little bit too big for the dumbass Seahawks. But that's week 17, 49ers, Seahawks.